Hello there, and welcome to this Astranti strategic analysis video for the management case study exam for the May and August 2021 exam sitting. In this video, we're going to conduct a strategic analysis of Trayyner, our pre-seen company, so that you have an idea of where Trayyner currently is, where it is going, and how it can get there. And the whole point of this video is so that you can produce more logical answers in the exam that of course make strategic sense for our company. But to make strategic sense of anything, it's always good to remind ourselves of the pre-seen company itself. So let's take a look and recap as to what the case is. So Trayyner is a training provider that offers executive training courses. So that's its main service offering. It is based in Capital City, Northland, and was founded in the 1990s by the Nasir family. It is currently still headed by the founders Asif and Miriam Nasir. It has 3 subsidiaries in Southland, Eastland and Westland, all of which are considered sales offices. The company is also unquoted and must produce its financial statements in accordance with IFRS, and its closest competitor is Masterclass. So that's our case. Now, how are we going to use that to create a strategic analysis? Well, what we're going to do is use something called the rational planning model. We're going to use it to look at where Trayyner is now, what its current circumstances are in its business environment. Now that we know the case, what can we do to actually analyze this? Well, what we're going to do is use something called the rational planning model. We're going to use it to look at where Trayyner is now, what its current circumstances are in its business environment, its strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats even. Then we're going to look at Trayyner's future. What kinds of goals does it have? What does it want to achieve, and where does it see itself going forward? But there's no point in thinking about the future if you don't know how to get there. So once we've done these two, the purpose of this model then is to analyze the appropriate business strategies that are available to it and what it can do to actually achieve its future from its current circumstances. But to figure this all out, we need topics. So the first area we're going to look at is the future, and more specifically, we're going to be looking at the mission of the company, the mission and values. We're then going to use the balanced scorecard, which we can use to see how well Trayyner is actually achieving its mission. Then we can perform an analysis of Trayyner's governance to see how it operates internally. We then, of course, have to deal with ethics and corporate social responsibility, as it's now considered necessary for organizations to be progressive in their thinking. Then there are, of course, the critical success factors. We need to know what it is that Trayyner absolutely needs to be successful as a company. And then lastly, we have our stakeholder analysis. And it's always a good idea to see who is most relevant to the company and what their roles are within it. As for the present, well, we have a different set of topics. First, we're going to look at the outside of Trayyner, its business environment, and what better tool to use than this tried and true method of the pestle analysis. This will give us a good grasp of the general business environment. But then what about the industry? Well, we can't go wrong with Porter's 5 forces as a way of assessing how the broader training industry is doing. Once we've done the outside, we can move inside and perform a value chain analysis to figure out how Trayyner creates value. And then lastly, we can use a handy SWOT analysis to appraise Trayyner's overall performance. With the 2 pieces of the puzzle now put together, we can look at the business strategy. And we're going to start by looking at Porter's generic strategy. We first need to identify what Trayyner's actual current strategy is, and we can use this model to do that. And then once we know the strategy, we can consider Trayyner's strategic options using the ANZOS matrix. Where can it develop its service and where can it develop its market? And then once we have these options, it's always a good idea to consider methods of growth. Trayyner needs to consider the ways in which it can stimulate growth to achieve its overall mission and achieve its future objectives. And lastly, we will attempt to define the business strategy and look at what Trayyner can do going forward. Starting off then, we're of course going to look at the future, but more specifically, we're going to be looking at the mission. And this tells us what the business is all about. We can break it down into 4 elements, starting with the purpose. And we ask ourselves, why does the organization exist? For whom does it exist for? And what does the organization hope to achieve in the long term? Well, for Trayyner, its purpose is to train executives. Its purpose is to make them better leaders. So that's quite straightforward. But then as to what it hopes to achieve in the long term, well, while it's not explicitly stated in the pre-scene, it would make sense if Trayyner's reason for existing and its long-term goals is to also become one of the most popular leadership training providers in the world, possibly. Maybe just in Northland, but we can only make assumptions. The next element then is strategy. How does the business intend to compete? What is the range of business practices that it operates in? Well, we know that in terms of competition, the best way it's going to compete is by having the best trainers. By having the best trainers, it makes sure that its reputation continues to grow. And of course, there's only so many skilled, truly skilled individuals in the world. The more trainers that Trayyner can get into their business, the less likely its competition are going to be able to use them. And then as for the range of business, well, we know from the pre-scene that Trayyner provides courses in 5 key topic areas, them being management, accounting and finance, oil and gas engineering, health and safety, and then they provide some specialist topic courses. Our third element then is values, what the organisation stands for, whether it's quality, value for money, innovation, etc. Well, we know from the business model that its main value is going to be providing a high quality service. It does want to provide value for money, or at least it says that it wants to provide a realistic price more specifically. But its main goal, its main value is that it wants to provide high quality training to executives. And then as for policies, what will it do to ensure that people act according to the defined values, strategy and purpose? Well, we know one in particular, and that's that trainers must perform to a high standard. The trainers are the backbone of the organization. Without the trainers, Trayyner can't actually conduct its business. It needs people to teach the leaders in the first place. But we know from the pre-scene that Trayyner does not have any sentimental value when it comes to the length of time they've been working with trainers. They'll happily end that relationship if the trainer is not performing to an expected standard. So in terms of policy, we know that Trayyner are willing to evaluate the performance of trainers and make sure that they perform to this high standard. The next thing we're going to look at then is the balanced scorecard, and this is a way of auditing how well a mission is being achieved. More specifically, the balanced scorecard though is used to overcome the limitations of just using financial ratios. Because financial ratios only give you a very one-dimensional side to a business, the whole point of balanced scorecard is to provide 4 sides of a business, combining both financial and non-financial measures. And so the 4 areas are the financial perspective, learning perspective, internal perspective, and customer perspective. Starting with the financial perspective, well, we know that profit's going to be a big measure. It's important to make sure that the business is profitable. An unprofitable business, more often than not, is going to be unsustainable in the long term. So Trayyner needs to make sure it earns a profit wherever it can. And we know from the pre-scene that in some cases this is not actually the case, given that courses are sometimes run close to break even or even at a loss. Variance analysis is also important just to make sure that courses are kept within budget, and if the budget and the actual are different, they have to investigate why. Cash flow then as well. Cash is king, obviously. The business needs cash in order to remain solvent, and so cash is obviously going to be a very important financial measure. And then gearing is just a measure of the company's risk. We know that Trayyner's gearing is actually quite low, so in terms of risk, the business is in quite a good position. As for the learning perspective, well, this is the development of people within the organization. And this will include making sure that the business hires high quality recruits, which we know from the fact that Trayyner vets and actually goes out looking for trainers with specific skills and qualifications to bring into the team. We don't know the number of training projects that are completed, but it can be assumed that, of course, besides the trainers themselves, Trayyner should also be training its sales staff, the people involved with managing courses, any HR. They need to make sure these people are obviously skilled in the jobs they do. So one way of measuring how effective they are at actually developing the skills in their own company is to measure the number of training projects they've completed. And another way of measuring it is to also consider the hours spent training. Although you've got to be careful with this measure, as hours don't exactly correlate to quality. So it has to be quality training time as well. The internal perspective then gives us an inside look at how efficient the business is running. And one way of doing that is checking if things are completed under budget. Obviously, if something's completed under budget, then it suggests that it's being quite efficient. If it's completed over budget, then there's an inefficiency somewhere. And we know from the pre-scene that this can sometimes happen due to the nature of the courses and the number of delegates. And something that is in place policy-wise is that course managers must speak to the topic managers if the surplus from the course is expected to be less than $10,000. Sorry, 10,000 $10,000. Then there's also employee satisfaction. This is an important thing to measure with regards to employees and their efficiency, because more satisfied employees are generally more motivated and they're generally more productive. We know from the pre-scene that some employees are not satisfied, more specifically the trainers, given that one trainer was cited to have actually just left the company without notice and leaving the course manager without a trainer on the course day. So it's important that employee satisfaction is maintained and that it's measured to ensure that everyone is working productively. And then there's also the number of sales made. This is obviously an important measure. It's all well and good if the business is earning revenue, but of course it earns revenue from the number of courses it sells. So it's important to measure how well the subsidiaries, the sales offices and the course managers are actually selling courses. And then the customer's perspective, obviously very important, because if the customers aren't satisfied, if they're not coming back to Trayyner, then Trayyner is going to lose business. So how does Trayyner measure this? Well, it measures the number of repeat customers. We know that part of Trayyner's business model is to get a client and then constantly sell courses to them over a longer period of time. So the more successful that Trayners are getting repeat clients, the better the customer perspective of the business is. The number of complaints is also quite important. As we're educating people at Trayyner, it means that clients must be satisfied, and any complaints that they have about maybe the way the course is organized or maybe even the quality of the trainer needs to be addressed. And this leads into the questionnaire, or customer satisfaction more specifically. One way of measuring how satisfied customers are and whether there are any complaints is to give them a questionnaire. And we know that Trayyner do hand out a survey to clients to see what they thought of the course so that they can improve it in the future. So that's our balanced scorecard. Now, while I've got your attention at the end of this video, I'd like to make you aware of the other products that Astranti sell as part of the case study course. So the first of these is a series of study text and tuition videos, and these come in two flavors. You have our written study text if you prefer learning through reading, or you can watch our videos if you're more of a visual learner. Now, to start with, we have an exam technique study series, which breaks down how to succeed at various case study levels. We'll be looking at exam technique, writing style, and planning that you need to nail to be successful in your case study exams. And to accompany this, we also have a revision series dedicated to the theory side of things. This is because at the case study level, there is a large amount of theory you need to be capable of using in your case study exam. So what we've done here is we've taken the key areas of the theory from the 3 case study levels and condensed them into a series of chapters to help focus your revision. Moving away from the more generic products and onto the products that are specific to the case study pre-scene, the first of these is the pre-scene analysis video series. First and foremost, this contains a series of videos where we break down the relevant pre-scene at the appropriate level of the qualification, page by page. And throughout this video, we bring out all the key points that could be relevant for you in your exam, looking at various topics and things you might need to consider when revising for the case study. And then to supplement the pre-scene analysis, we also have 2 videos. We have the strategic analysis, where we give a broad overview of what kind of strategy the pre-scene company is using and where it might be going in the future. And then we also look at the top 10 issues that we think this pre-scene company might be subject to, and something that you may need to take into consideration when revising for the case study. We then provide an industry analysis document and accompanying video. CIMA like to see you demonstrate wider industry knowledge in your exam, and this is what this industry analysis does, as it gives you the wider industry knowledge you need in order to fulfill this requirement. Essentially what it is, it's a large document that we've compiled on all the relevant industry information that we have gathered so that you don't have to do the revision yourself. And then to accompany this, we of course have a video that goes over this document to pick out some of the key points for you if you'd prefer that. We also produce a number of mock exams for every sitting. We write 5 mock exams for the first exam sitting, and then we add 2 more supplementary mocks for the second exam sitting. We design these mocks around the specific issues relevant to the pre-scene and make them as close to the real thing as you will see in the case study exam as possible. So these are a great way to practice your exam technique and test your knowledge of the pre-scene company under timed conditions. And then to add value to this product, we also offer a marking and feedback service. So we have a range of highly skilled finance professionals working as freelance staff for us, and it is these staff that provide the marking and feedback service. So this is a great service to use in conjunction with our mock exams, as it gives you a great idea of how you're progressing in the areas you need to work on for your case study exam. And then if you're in need of extra exam practice, we also provide a more generic question pack product. So obviously there are only so many questions you could write about on a specific pre-scene. So what this question pack is a series of generic questions on generic scenarios that we come up with at Astranti, whereby we look to test specific topics that come up regularly in the case study exam. So if there is a particular topic you are struggling with and we've only tested once in our mocks, and you'd like more practice on it, then these question packs will be a great product for you to turn to. The penultimate product on this list is a product for those of you who would like to get a full overriding picture in terms of your revision all at once, and these are our masterclasses. So these are our expert tutors who hold 2 masterclasses every exam sitting, and these essentially cover all key aspects that you're going to need to know for your relevant exams. So from particular theories to analyses of the pre-scene, all the way through to tips and tricks you can use in your exam. And finally, such is the confidence we have in the quality of our product that if you do purchase a full course from us and you unfortunately do not pass your exam using our product, then we will offer what we call a pass guarantee. So if you did not pass your exam after purchasing our full course, then you will receive the materials for the next exam sitting free of charge. Okay, thank you very much for listening to that. I hope you find our products useful, and of course I would like to wish you the best of luck in your exam from everyone at Astranti.